Which countries don't seem dangerous, but really are?
Experience 1. Australia. I've met plenty of European tourists who have wanted to just drive through the outback while being woefully underprepared. Just basic stuff like not knowing what to do in an emergency and not having enough water. It's not a joke. People die out there all the time, and it'll be 40 feet plus and hundreds of kilometers before you see someone again if something goes wrong. Experience 2. In New Zealand, we don't have any animals, insects, snakes, etc. that will kill you. But we have the most amazing hole in our ozone layer. White people will get sunburnt within 30 minutes in the summer unprotected. I get sunburnt within 15. If I spent a whole day in the sun without protection, I'd be willing to bet I'd still be sunburnt/peeling a month later. Experience 3. I live in the Netherlands, and I'd say it's quite safe for tourists here. And then I remembered the time I was visiting Amsterdam and saw a sign warning tourists about some stupid gang selling white heroin as cocaine. Don't fall for the myth that anything goes in Amsterdam, people. Hard drugs are as illegal and unsafe as anywhere else. Experience 4. My wife wanted to do a backpacking type of holiday through Thailand, but was quite nervous about doing so. As per my other story, her innocence comes into play in a lot of our experiences. She was really worried about going on such a holiday due to stories of tourists being set up/framed as drug mules and then being imprisoned or threatened with execution in Far Eastern countries. I repeatedly assured them it was a very rare occurrence and that I would take lots of precautions. One such precaution I took was that I bought 2 expensive backpacks for us to use, Hageloff brand. My thinking was that 1, they are excellent gear, 2, not many backpackers would buy expensive backpacks as it's a cheaper budget type holiday experience, so no one else would probably have such a bag and the bags would stand out so wouldn't be the type people would sneak unwanted packages into. I also assembled some intricate locks using thin steel cables and suitcase padlocks to ensure the fastening clips on the backpacks could not be easily opened by others. Fast forward 7 days into the trip, we land in Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand. It's a late flight, we are tired and bumbling our way through passport control and baggage claim. I grab our bags off the carousel, and we jump into a taxi. We get to our accommodation and start unpacking. Only then do I notice that on my bag, my locking system has been removed. I freeze. I shout to my wife to step away from the bags and do not touch them, fearing her concerns were right, our bags have been tampered with. I reason with myself that perhaps with my mishmash locking system, airport security was concerned with what I had to hide, so cut them off and took a look inside. We, having nothing to hide, realize upon checking all is fine and put our bags through minus my locks. A tiny bit calmer after reasoning on the situation, I started to open my bag. I opened the top and undone the drawstring, and glistening right on top was a rectangular package perfectly wrapped in foil and then a layer of cling film/saran wrap over it. A perfect looking block of drugs you typically see in a Hollywood movie. My heart sank and I did literally drop to my knees. My wife's over-the-top concerns were totally justified. Cue visions of me and her locked up in a dungeon-type prison cell, our faces all over international news as 2 British citizens were sentenced to death for drug smuggling. After what seemed an eternity, a bit like reading this story, I grabbed a towel from the bathroom so I could cover my hands to further check my bag, as I didn't want to get my fingerprints on this perfect kilo block of drugs. My wife was begging me not to and to just call the police and explain our situation, as surely they would understand it's not our drugs and we have been set up. Here comes her innocence again. I tipped my bag over to make the package fall out onto the floor, but then tumbling out from underneath the suspect package came a bra, some other underwear, and a bikini, none of which was my wife's, and all her clothing was in her bag anyway. I picked up the wrong bag, which was identical to mine. I picked up the foil package using the towel, and it felt light for a kilo of drugs, or so I thought. I carefully opened a corner and the crust of a slice of bread appeared to bloody someone's lunch. Ham sandwiches. The relief of finding this was unbelievable. My wife actually started to cry, bless her. To cut a very long story short, taxi back to the airport and run to security to swap the bag for the one which had been left on the carousel with my locking system fully intact. Apologies if this story is a bit rambling and the ending a bit anticlimactic. Experience 5. Norway. Each year, quite a lot of tourists die here because they underestimate nature. People come here to get some amazing pictures they've seen online and then don't realize that you need appropriate clothes/gear and that you should probably not take a selfie at the edge of a giant drop. Also, since it's regularly asked in r/Norway, no, you can't just go hiking in northern Norway in the winter without skis/snowshoes, especially not in avalanche-prone areas. Experience 6. A lot of people confuse Guyana with French Guiana and have no idea how dangerous Guyana is. It never appears in the dangerous city statistics, but I've lived in the worst cities in the world, including Buenaventura in Colombia, where they've daily dismembering, and Georgetown. Guyana was in a world of its own. A tiny city with daily murders. I saw crap every day. Everyone seems to carry a machete in that city, and it is dangerous as hell. The food is fire though, and the people are amazing. Experience 9. I live in Mexico City, so my perception of the first world is overall safer than home. I'm used to beggars, aggressive sellers, and the like. I've been a few times to New York, so I'm also used to the crazy and the homeless in the subway or just peeing on the street. You just ignore them. Paris felt overwhelmingly safe. I expected the same as in New York or at home. Beggars, junkies, etc. Yet I almost got robbed while climbing Montmartre by a bunch of those guys selling roped rings or bracelets or whatever. I did, as usual, ignore and keep walking, don't stop. Yet this MFS grabbed me by the arm and kept trying to sell stuff. At first one, then the other three. They even said, "We from Africa, where you from?" Like that made a difference. I kept pulling to free my arm for 5 or so seconds and trying to keep walking. I don't know if it was my face of worry/anger or what, but one of them told the others to let me go. It was scary, but most of all it was astonishing. I kept thinking,
are you seriously gonna rob me here? I am one of the busiest places in Paris with like 100 people watching.
This is not just a place where people go through, but people come to the place, take pictures, and stay for the music. I mean, I know criminals are usually a combination of dumb and bold, but this took the cake. I wasn't your typical tourist looking at maps or taking 1,000 pictures. This was at the foot of the hill, and I had one earbud in with my podcasts and was walking upstairs, not distracted, and this refers still tried. Experience 10. A lot of dreamy 5-star destinations for the rich explicitly tell you,
do not exit the resort.
You'd think it would be pretty obvious to follow that advice given where the resorts are situated, but apparently, tons of people each year ignore it and go out anyway, and usually they're mugged or abducted or worse. Experience 11. While I would in no way call Denmark a dangerous place in general, there are some things that tourists are not aware of. 1. Many Germans go on vacation on the western coast of the Jutland Peninsula. Too many of them don't know that you do not mess with the North Sea. Riptides are somewhat common and scary as hell. The current and waves can be more violent than you expect if you're not used to the sea. You can go swimming pretty safely, but don't be an idiot and definitely don't go out on an inflatable mattress that will float halfway to England before you realize what's going on. 2. The so-called free city of Christiania in Copenhagen can be a fun place to visit. But it is also the hub of organized crime involving drugs. In August last year, a number of innocent bystanders were caught in a gangland shooting and wounded at a bar. The man who was targeted was shot several times and died. There are gangland shootings there a couple of times a year, as well as assaults and stabbings. Also, don't take pictures when you're there. The weed dealers are not tolerant of that. 3. For the love of God, if you are not used to riding a bicycle in the city, do not rent a bike and drive around Copenhagen. We will hate you for it, and you might get hurt or hurt someone else. Other than that, come enjoy Denmark. Experience 12. Canada is inverse Australia. In Australia, everything looks terrifying, But if you keep your distance, most of it just wants to be left alone, and most of the time, it's just as terrified of you, except for the birds, they're just jerks. In Canada, everything looks adorable, very little of it is afraid of humans due to habituation to direct contact because no one respects the danger, and all of it will absolutely rip your throat out. That beaver can chew through a maple tree in minutes. Do you want to know what the overgrown lake rat will do to a femur? That moose can walk away from a collision with a semi-truck, weighs more than a small car, can outrun you, and will not think twice about turning you into an antler ornament. The deer will not think twice about eating you if you happen to get gored to death. I'm going to say that one again. The deer will eat you. Those adorable seal pups. Mama seal is bigger than you are, and there's a reason they're effectively wolves in the water. That squirrel, oh, the squirrel is harmless. Kidding, it will take your finger and scratch out both your eyes. And all of that doesn't even count the actual predators. No, those aren't puppies, kitties, and teddy bears. If you're lucky, they will remove your hand. If you are unlucky, they will remove your head. Implausibly, the only things that aren't going to actively try to kill you are the snakes and spiders. The only common point, the birds are still jerks. Bless the cobra chicken. Experience 13. Japan is considered much safer than many countries for sure, but in turn, it gives a false sense of security. I've seen many videos of women tourists going to stores alone at night, preaching the country's safety in it. Meanwhile, the comments of the videos are full of native Japanese women warning them to not do that. It's the country that had to resort to women's train only and obligatory phone cameras shutter sound, after all. Besides that, I'm sure it's a much safer country in general, but yeah, you shouldn't be careless even in a safer country. Experience 14. My boss told me a story about studying abroad in Ireland as an undergrad. She and another student were carrying groceries home and walking through Limerick. A group of school-aged boys stopped them, with one of them pulling out a knife before demanding money. My boss said that her friend took one look at them, laughed, and kept walking. One of the boys tried stopping her, to which she replied, "I'm from Baltimore," which, "Your Limerick pussy knife isn't crap." I guess the boys were so stunned that my boss kind of shrugged at them and said, "She is from Baltimore," before catching up to her friend.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.